the guy in the middle, he just kept rejecting people. I regret to inform you that we cannot, I regret to inform you. And so when they started calling people, I noticed this guy that was in front of me, whenever it's his turn, and they call him, he'll suddenly get up and go to the bathroom. And then once that happens, is the person that's now behind them will have to go. I didn't know why. Now, the Indian guy now called. Immediately that guy got up and went to the bathroom again. And it was now me that now called after that. Once again, I got back into Howard University. But my uncle and aunt were like, why would you leave, a black country to go to America and go to a black school? Financial aid in the US means it covers a lot of different sources of money. Part of it is scholarships or grants. That's money that you get that you don't have to pay back. It's free money pretty much. Part of it is a loan, which they'll give you a loan every year. And when you graduate, they might give you 6 months of grace period. But after 6 months, you need to set up a payment plan to pay that stuff off. Like today, my wife accuses me that she's in an interracial relationship. She's a Nigerian also. This is an interracial relationship because I'm a white Nigerian. I've had some friends that, by force, they're going to come, and they struggled a lot. Just to even pay their tuition, just to be able to even get through their university. And I think if you're going to come to the US, what I've seen is that with the way the system is set up, you really want to be convinced that it's God's will for you to be here. Don't force your way here, because I've seen people that force their way here that it's just a struggle every single day for them. Most people are not open about their experiences in the US and how they're suffering, how they're working 3-4 jobs just to even pay for the rent and their car note and just have a little bit of food to eat on the side. But when they come back to Nigeria, they'll be flashing money like, oh man, money is so easy to just get here. You really want to come the right way.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of Lost Lagosians. I'm your host, Brother Mike. Today, I have a very, very special guest who is out in South Carolina. I'm really, really happy to have someone from the South, finally. We've had a lot of guests from the Midwest and some of the East Coast. And, your host here is out in the Seattle, Portland area. So thank you guys for listening. Thanks for all the love and support. Without further ado, let's go ahead and bring on our guest. Hello. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. As they say down in the South.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. Yeah. Thanks for being here, y'all, from the South. Yeah. Please, can you introduce yourself to our audience, what you're doing and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually an assistant professor at one of the universities here down in the South. I'm also the coordinator of the Math and Engineering program, as well as the director of the Year Zero program for the College of Engineering. I currently teach physics, even though I have plans to also teach some new engineering courses because my university just opened up a new College of Engineering, which I'm heavily involved in. I have a wonderful wife and 2 pretty handsome boys that are a handful.
Oh, so wow.
If
imagine.
Anyone is looking for babysitting opportunities, please reach out to me. Come over to South Carolina. We're willing to have you.
I think I can hear the boys in the background. And to our audience, please pardon the noise in the background. Just the boys running around.
Nothing further in action.
No, thank you for being here. So does that mean you're really smart? You got to be very smart, I would imagine.
Well, I don't know. Like getting a PhD in the US doesn't mean that you are super smart. It just means you're very hardworking. You do have to develop some critical thinking skills. And I started off in physics. So physics is all about critical thinking skills because we don't really work with numbers per se. We work more with equations, and you need to know how to set it up. So those critical thinking skills are very important for doing a PhD. Essentially, you need to figure out what you want to do. You need to think about how you want to break things down into bite-sized chunks and begin to tackle each one of your aims one at a time. So it's not so much about how smart you are. but how organized, how you think critically, how you analyze different situations in front of you.
Perfect. But you also did physics in Nigeria, didn't you? I thought, you went to school in Nigeria, didn't you?
Well, yes, I actually started off at Yaba Tech, elect, for those that understand the
what is the greatest Yaba? Is that what they call it?
In fact, it was, and well, you know what, because of time, I'm not going to go into the whole process of how I even got into Yaba Tech, but
maybe for another episode in the future.
Yeah, for another episode in the future, but that was just a crazy one on its own. It was never planned for me to go to Yaba Tech, but I ended up there.
Was it that jam? Was it the jam issue?
Jam me twice. So
Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, I'm not in because I also went to Yaba.
Yeah, so that was so I started off at Yaba Tech.
Okay.
Got my ND in electrical engineering. Then I transferred to Unilag, and I don't think I spent up to I didn't even finish one semester at Unilag before I left Unilag to come to the US to study.
Okay, so you spent the semester in Unilag. So basically, your experience was mostly Yaba Tech then?
Yeah, mostly Yaba Tech. Yeah, the one at Unilag, I would have spent a year if things had gone normally, but within a few months of us getting to school, the cult people started fighting and they shut down the university.
Wow, so are you talking early 2000s or 90s?
Yeah, like late 90s. Well, actually, no, it was 2000 that I got into Unilag.
Okay.
2000.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then it shut down. Okay, that's kind of rare for Unilag. I don't think Unilag is one of those places that, for the most part, they don't really do that.
Yeah,
anymore,
of course, it happens as soon as I go there. So take that as you will.
Okay, so were you admitted into the dorms at all, or you never even made it that far?
I did. Well, I was actually coming from home because when I went through the direct entry route.
Okay.
So I didn't really, I didn't, at that point in time, I don't think I even knew how the system worked. All the dorms were already taken unless you're ready to spend like a lot of money to buy someone else's space. But I think I did, so I don't even remember stuff about, I don't remember the Unilag experience so much. I think I used to stay somewhere, I don't even know, because I know we had some late night fellowships on campus, and I was always there to assist. And I'm pretty sure that I wasn't going back home at that time of the night. So I'm sure I stayed somewhere. But like I said, my mind was already, because at that point in time when I was at Unilag, I was already applying and preparing to transition to the US. So I was my head was already out of there.
Which, speaking about transition to the US, how was that experience? Did you go through the USIS, or did you go through all that process, or you just went straight for the visa? And
for that experience, though, for me, I'd actually tried to go to the US right as soon as I came out of secondary school, and that didn't quite work out. I actually got admission to a school in the US. They even gave me like a full scholarship. They were going to give me like a monthly stipend. They were going to pay for all my books.
As an undergrad?
My room and board. They were going to give me a laptop. This was actually Howard University in Washington, D.C. Right. And that was based on my SAT scores and my other transcripts and everything else I was bringing to the table. So it was going to be a great thing, but this was being done by me personally. I didn't go through any agency or anyone. I applied and did all that stuff and did my exams on my own. And eventually I had, I don't know, like something just happened that we were emailing back and forth. They were supposed to send me my I-20, to set up my visa interview. And conversation just stopped there. Like, I don't even know what happened. Well, looking back now, I know it was God that did that, because at that point, I think my relationship with him was very, very shaky. And I'm pretty sure that if I had come to the US at that point, I would definitely not be having this conversation with my very wonderful friend here, who was even at my wedding, that assisted me in chauffeuring my wife all around the place. So thank you so much. But the thing is that, like I said, that was tied to that.
Sorry, I can't help but laugh. I
I know
remember
it's been
that
so
day.
many years now.
Yeah.
But the thing there was a few years after that was when I now got very serious with God. And when I got serious with God, I and my friend were having a prayer meeting. We used to have like some night vigils every now and then, just both of us at my home. And during one of those sessions, I just felt like the Spirit of God was laying something upon my heart and was kind of like, okay, yes, you're going to be traveling to the US very soon. And I started laughing because I hadn't even applied. I hadn't even thought about schools in the US, so I didn't even know how this was going to go. And I said, okay, sure. Well, if I'm going to go, that's fine, but I'm not doing anything anymore. I've hustled, I've run around, I've done everything before. I'm going to sit right here. If it's going to happen, let it come and meet me where I am. And the next week, one of my uncles just called me. I was like, hey, I know that you were doing that US thing the last time. You know, what's going on? How far with that? I'm like, well, nothing came of it. He said, okay, are you willing to try again? I said, sure, but I don't have any money. He's like, oh, no, don't worry. I'll take care of it. Go here. I actually went, he told me to go to this service in Iwaya called MET.
Okay. So, how do you spell that?
MET.
Oh, MET, okay.
Yeah. So I don't even know if they're still there now or not, but
probably not.
MET back then, they used to have the full works. They would prepare you for taking the SATs. They'll prepare you for other things. And if you paid them, back then it was like if you paid them 100,000 naira, you get the gold service or the premium service where they will apply to up to 8 schools for you in the US. And they'll take care of all the communication. They had like someone in the US in Maryland that would also be able to correspond with the university. So that way they had somebody over here that could just get all the letters sent to them. So it made things very easy and very quick. You didn't have to wait for stuff to get to you in Nigeria. And the person was sending whatever information they need or fax whatever documents they needed to fill out and all that stuff. So it did help for them to have somebody in the US to do the actual correspondence, do the actual calling, because that's something that's very key if you're thinking of applying to schools in the US, having somebody do that follow-up and that legwork. But it's a lot of work. So anyways, they applied to a few places, did my SAT preparation, did my SAT exam.
Again, you have to take the SAT again? Yeah,
because it was already a few years after, and I just felt like, let me just do it again just for the sake of it. And it was part of my...
I think it also expires anyway after some time, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, but I mean, it had only been 2 years since I took it. I think it's like 5 years. I don't even remember that stuff anymore. But ultimately, what happened was I did it again. So they handled everything. I didn't bother looking at anything. They just told me that, okay, these schools look very good. We're going to apply to these schools for you. I just said, sure. Just make sure I don't have to pay a lot of money out of pocket. So we got a few offers, and they did. Once again, I got back into Howard University, but my uncle and aunt were like, why would you leave, a Black country to go to America and go to a Black school? So I was like, okay, but I don't have to pay much money in this one. It's pretty much almost all covered and taken care of. Like, yeah, okay, fine, don't worry. We'll support you with the difference you have to pay on the other school. I said, okay. And that's how I went to this school in Illinois. Bloomington.
Oh, so you never went to Howard anymore then?
No, I never went to Howard anymore.
Oh, you didn't go to Howard because your uncle was like, why are you going to Black school?
And they were like, they're going to pay the difference.
Okay, because you got a full ride at Howard again.
Yeah.
Got it.
Now, but I didn't get some of the other stuff. I guess they'd raised the bar and done some other things, or maybe they didn't have as much funding. But at least tuition-wise, I wasn't going to pay for that. But the one I got at Illinois Wesleyan, I had a financial aid package. And with financial aid, you need to be extremely careful. And I'm just going to put this as a point of warning to everyone listening in. Financial aid in the US means it covers a lot of different sources of money. Part of it is scholarships or grants. That's money that you get that you don't have to pay back. It's free money pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is a loan, which they'll give you a loan every year. And when you graduate, they might give you 6 months of grace period. But after 6 months, you need to set up a payment plan to pay that stuff off. I'm currently in that phase where I'm trying to set up my payment plan with I'm completely pay off my loan, which I got since back then. Finally about to pay it off. So that's a good thing. And the third one is through work study. Work study meaning that back then you would work about 11 hours a week on campus as an international student. And the money you make from those 11 hours goes directly towards your school fees. Meaning that if you work less hours that week, your school fees will be short and you have to pay that difference. So that was that.
Wow. Yeah. So I think I've been to your dorm. I mean, yeah, because I give you a ride or something though. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But very beautiful campus. Oh my God. Really, really nice.
Yeah. It was it was a very nice place and I had a great experience. Because even as an undergraduate student, because our department was so small, you got to meet the professors and talk to them one-on-one, develop personal relationships with them. In fact, one of them, I did some research with him. Well, research in quotes, but through my interaction with him and the people I interacted with afterwards, I did get 2 publications from that.
Wow.
One of them, he connected me to some people in Scotland, University of Glasgow. I was able to go out there and do some summer internship, summer research for 2 months.
Study. Is it travel abroad?
Yeah. It wasn't a travel abroad thing. It was just the personal one-on-one stuff.
Oh, wow.
And well, I used it as an excuse to go visit my family that were in London. So
wow.
So it was pretty good, and that led to a publication.
As an undergrad, which is a rarity, if you will.
Yeah.
So what's your experience of Lagos in general as you were leaving? I mean, do you have any fun highlights or memorable?
I mean, one thing I'll definitely never miss is the traffic in Lagos. I mean, I just said it's gotten even worse over the years. I would definitely never miss that. But I mean, I love the whole experience of the kind of neighborhood that we lived in. Maybe that's because after living in the US for so long, there was that community interaction.
What part of Lagos?
Well, I lived in Papajao, which is in the Mushi area. And with the neighbors that we had, they were really wonderful. I had my neighbor across the road from me, who is now in Canada. He's relocated with his family to Canada. And we used to spend a lot of time in each other's homes back then. And other people around us, people would just walk over. I remember that even all our parents could leave the house and only we kids to be in the house. And, there was no child protective services or anything like that going on. And we wouldn't just go out and, be doing all kind of stuff. And just the fact that if we needed things, there were people that were just across the road. We didn't have to go to a grocery store and drive like 10 minutes to a grocery store to pick stuff up. You could just go across the road to the little place that somebody opened up in their home, selling all kinds of things. And that was, I think, a very, very good situation. But I think that community atmosphere, even the church that we went to, we didn't have to drive. We could just run to the church and we'll be there in like 3 minutes. And here in the US, it's just more of a driving culture. Everywhere you want to go, you have to drive. You can't even survive in the US without a car, unless you live in a place like maybe DC or New York, maybe even Chicago. Very few places have excellent transportation systems. But
So you come to the US, the cultural shock. You were in Unilag for a month. And here you are, you landed here, you're in Illinois Wesleyan. Again, like I said, I've been there, to your campus, actually to your room, even I remember from back in the days, helping you move and stuff. So my question is, how do you handle Illinois?
So first of all, I think the cultural shock will hit differently depending on the makeup of the student population at your university. My university had about 2,000 students. The international students were probably somewhere from 50 to 100 out of all of that. It was mostly white. There were a few Alana people, Alana being like the Asian, Latino American, Latinos, African Americans, like the Native Americans, like the actual minorities here in the US. So there were also few of them. There were not that many. So you tended to try to find a group to fit in with. And because we had more whites than non-people, in fact, today my wife accuses me that she's in an interracial relationship. She's a Nigerian also. This is an interracial relationship because me, I'm a white Nigerian. But I hung out with more white people than
by virtue of having gone to Illinois and spent time in a lot of big colleges.
Exactly.
You know,
so now this goes back to the comment that my auntie made so many years ago that why will you live in a Black country and go to live with Black people? So I guess it gave me a different perspective.
Wow, that's really interesting, though. That's very interesting, the way you circle back.
Yeah, I'm just because I just started thinking about that now because, like I said, like my wife jokes with me about this all the time. People tell me I don't behave like a typical Nigerian, even though I am a Nigerian. I still have my green passport. But the situation is just that depending on what group of students you associate with, you tend to pick up that specific culture. So if I had gone to Howard, Howard is mostly what we call an HBCU in the US, historically Black college and university. It's something that you tend to speak, behave, think like the group of people you associate with. When the Bible talks about, evil communication, corrupting good manners and stuff like that. Well, I'm not using it in a negative manner, but literally what the Bible is just saying is whoever you hang around, people are going to start seeing extreme similarities between you and the group that you hang out with. You hang out with African Americans, you pick up a lot of their traits, the way they talk, the way they behave, the way they think, part of their own culture. If you hang out with whites, you also pick up that same thing. If you hang out with Asian Americans or Native Americans or Latino Americans, you would kind of also pick up things that they do or the way they behave or the way they react to certain situations. I think in general, when most international students come to the US, international students, once they meet each other during that first 1 week of orientation before the rest of the other freshmen come in, those international students have a very strong bond and friendship. Now, my set at Illinois were the weirdest set that they'd ever seen. Because after that first week of orientation, we all just found our American group of friends to go hang out with. Like, we did not keep that cohesive bond. Yeah. We still talked and interacted with each other once in a while that, oh, hey, wow, hey, Mahi, I see you. Okay, hey, Constantine, we did that once in a while whenever we saw. We didn't neglect those bonds completely because every Friday, all we international guys and even the girls, we all go play soccer in the gym for like 2 hours straight from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Friday, like without fail. So we still had that bond and friendship and we still hung out in other ways, but our core group of friends were mostly Americans. And I think in my core group, it was me from Nigeria, my roommate who was from India, another one of our friends from Bangladesh, another one from India, and one of them from Nepal. Were the only 5 international students in that group. And we were mostly made up of people that lived on the same dorm as a freshman. And some girls also lived in their own dorm as freshmen too. Like how it all happened was that one of the guys on our floor, he and another girl were boyfriend, girlfriend. And so he asked, his roommate, and he saw international students and he said, oh, you guys want to join us for lunch? And that's how we started. We joined them to eat at the cafeteria. And then, the group started growing. And before we knew, we were like about 22 people. And by the second semester, we even had a trip. We drove out to St. Louis to watch the Phantom of the Opera, to visit the St. Louis Arch, to go ice skating, to do a lot of things. I mean, that first year, I picked up so much experience. I went skiing down a mountain, and I learned why you don't go skiing down a Black Diamond if you just started learning how to ski.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That's tougher terrain.
It's crazy.
But how's that shaped your American experience though? Given that your first couple years you started at this all white school, and
Yeah,
how's that shaped your experience?
it has definitely changed the way I perceive things and behave. I think like when I eventually came down to the South, I noticed that my experience in the North was a lot different than what I saw in the South. And also maybe in the South, because I'm now in grad school, I don't have time to be hanging out and be doing a lot of other things because grad school work just requires so much focus and determination. But I remember talking to my wife and discussing our American experiences. And a lot of times when we talk about things and I share my experience and what happened, she's like, wow, I never had that kind of experience, you know? And so she grew up mostly among Blacks. And I think sometimes also the social economic status of the Americans that you interact with might also affect certain ways that you think and also behave. Because some of them, some certain things are acceptable. And most of my friends back at Illinois, a lot of them have traveled to many countries around the world. And I think when you interact with Americans who are well-traveled, you have a completely different experience compared to Americans who just lived in that town for the last few years. Even those that lived in that town, I noticed that, I mean, well, for me, I guess God just gave me that spirit that allowed a lot of people to connect with me. And so I had friends that were farmers. They grew up on a farm. I've even spent like a week in their homes with their families. I had people that lived nearby, guys, girls that we went to go visit and spend a lot of time with. And the experience I had there, like I said, was a lot different than what I've seen in the South. The South is a little bit more
economically impoverished, perhaps.
Maybe, but also depending on where you go to, there's some very, very expensive, wealthy parts of the South that, of course, the kind of people that also make it into that community are mostly just whites. If minorities make it in there, there might be a very small percentage. And what happens is, well, we're not going to get into the whole how America might say they're not segregated anymore, but they're still extremely segregated, especially in certain areas. And even back under the former presidency, a lot of those things were even heightened. I remember there was a time that my wife even told me, oh, you're not going to school today. I don't know what's going to happen outside during this particular period of time. You need to just, sit your behind at home. Let's see how things play out.
Yeah, that's the Trump era.
That was how worried we were with the way things were escalating so quickly, especially in the South. Now, the North, I mean, there are lots of different cultures that they also have. I mean, I had to get used to the new sports culture about what American football is all about. And I had to lose my love for soccer because back then, most American sports channels didn't even carry any of the European sports.
They don't.
Yeah. I mean, now some of them are coming up, but it's still like you just watch whatever team they put up. You don't have that choice of picking which English team or Spanish team or Italian team. Yeah, you want to Eurosport.
No Eurosport or nothing like that.
Yeah. Unless you go spend extra money to get those channels on your TV package.
Which are then you're a student. I mean,
I'm a student, so I'm watching whatever the university has bought.
Exactly. But I like how you're talking about the two different Americas because the North is a little bit more upward mobility and they're just more exposed, more open. And I completely agree with you. Like, it depends on what part of America you're in. You'll have a certainly different cultural shock and perhaps different experience as well.
And so one thing I definitely want to recommend to people as they're thinking about coming to the US to study. I've had some friends that, by force, they're going to come and they struggled a lot just to even pay their tuition, just to be able to even get through their university. And I like I said, is you really want to know if it's God's will for you to come to the US. Because if it's God's will for you to come to the US, trust me, it will be the easiest thing for you to get here. Like I said, when I was coming, for me, I just said, okay, fine, I'm going to sit down here until God literally leads me by the 80 and he pulls me by my ear
Oh,
and
it.
drags me there. Yeah, until he dragged me there. I'm going to just sit down here because I'd been disappointed before. I'd already applied to Nigerian universities. I'd already applied for different oil company scholarships. In fact, I think I actually even got was it the Shell or the Chevron or Mobil? One of those companies gave me a scholarship because when I went to the US, one of my friends said they saw my name in the newspaper.
But you already left. So what's the
Yeah, but I
point?
already left. I was already in the US
Is
for
it a
like
Shell Centennial scholarship?
I don't even remember. It was supposed to cover like your education even up to the end of your
Those were
program.
common then in the 2000s. I remember
Yeah.
those.
And then after that, they were supposed to do some other stipulations that if you did reach some certain GPA, then some other things were triggered. So like it was good. But I've also seen people that did their undergraduate studies in Nigeria, came to the US for graduate school, and they're doing just great. I think if you're going to come to the US, what I've seen is that with the way the system is set up, you really want to be convinced that it's God's will for you to be here. Don't force your way here, because I've seen people that force their way here that is just a struggle every single day for them. Like most people are not open about their experiences in the US and how they're suffering, how they're working 3-4 jobs just to even pay for the rent and their car note and just have a little bit of food to eat on the side. But when they come back to Nigeria, they'll be flashing money like, oh man, money is so easy to just get here. You really want to come the right way. And when you want to come, you want to have that focus. And trust me, when God says it's time for you to go there, God will usually make the way open. God doesn't just send you that, okay, fine, go to the US. God will always give you an extra piece of luggage that will contain everything you need to be successful when you're there. So that's a very, very big part. And with scholarships, don't just go to the school that gives you the most scholarship money. Always think about, okay, fine, after the scholarship, what is left for me to pay? Going to a school that costs $70,000 per year to attend, and they give you $50,000 of scholarship means that you still have to look for $20,000 every year to pay. Going to that school is not as good as going to a school where you might have to pay just $10,000 a year and you have 0 scholarships. Because at the end of everything, how much are you still bringing out of pocket to pay? That's really what you want to look at if you're considering what school to go to. And apart from that, I think the other advice is, definitely do your research. Like, lots of opportunities out there. In fact, someone just sent another link to me, like the US Embassy in Nigeria is putting together some funding opportunities. So visit the US Embassy website in Nigeria. Don't just trust any random website, because in this day and age, there are lots of scammers out there, but there are opportunities out there for Nigerians who are thinking of going to study in the US. And the other thing I'll say is with your visa interview, when you go to the embassy, honestly speaking, it doesn't matter who interviews you. That's why I said, if God is on your side and God wants you to go, things will work out well. And I'll just share this final visa interview story with you guys before I close out. I had been in the US for a long time, and I came back to Nigeria for my sister's wedding. Of course, as an international student, I had a 2-year F1 visa, and that had expired a long time ago. But in the US, with the F1 visa, even if your visa expires, you're still okay as long as you maintain status as a student. The moment you fall out of status as a student, you lose your F1 visa. Now, and the F1 visa is a very, very powerful visa for you to have as an international person, because the visa, once you're done with your education, with your degree, you can use it to work for up to 3 years as a STEM student, maybe even longer.
That's new though.
STEM
used to be the case.
Yeah, it used to be 2 years. It used to be like 18 months, and then you could petition for an extension. But now it's like longer and everything. But once you get your bachelor's degree, you can apply for your OPT, as they call it.
Optional practical training.
Yeah, and you can work on that thing for full salaries and stuff like that, full benefits. And after that, you can then go back for your master's, get your master's degree. You can stop and go do another OPT, because your OPT resets after every degree. and then do it again after your PhD. Or if you're someone that just tired and just want to get through with your education all at once, then you can just go from your bachelor's to master's to PhD. But I say this because now I went back to Nigeria for my sister's wedding. And because my 2-year visa had expired, your F1 visa, once it expires, it's okay if you stay in the country, but once you leave the US, you need to renew it before coming back. Now, I came back to Nigeria, I was supposed to renew my visa. They told me that, if your visa has expired more than 6 months, so if you're coming to this place 6 months after your visa has expired, you have to apply for a new one. I'm like, wait, what? And then the dates that were available for those were like in February, March. And I was going to be in Nigeria in December. And I had to, of course, as a graduate student, I needed to be back in school by January 2nd. I'm like, yeah, this is not going to fly. So they told me to apply as a renewing person, even though they knew that I wasn't really renewing anything. So I applied as a renewing person. I could get a date in December. And when I went for the interview, I actually landed in Nigeria at like 5 a.m. My sister's traditional wedding was that day at 11 a.m. I landed there. My visa interview was at 7:30, I think, in the morning. So I'm getting into the airport, going to my cousin's place where I was going to stay. I barely had enough time to shower. I just had time to at least drop my main luggage, gather the main documents together, and then rush off to the embassy. Got to the embassy, my eyes are red because we got there at 5 a.m. I've not really slept, and the trip was a crazy
jet
trip.
lag.
Yeah, all that stuff was just coming in. Adjusting to the new temperature in Nigeria, I was sweating. Got there, got into my thing for the interview. First of all, the number that they gave me to go in was 419. So already, all kind of alarm bells are ringing in my head. For those of you who are Nigerians, you understand the inside joke. I got in there and I saw that there were 3 people interviewing people. 3 of these men, 2 of them were white, and one of them was from the country India, but they all had American accents. And by the way, speaking of accents, depending on what part of the country you're in, American accent also changes. So, but anyways, the guy in the middle, the Indian guy, he just kept rejecting people. I regret to inform you that. I regret to inform you. And so when I started calling people, I noticed this guy that was in front of me, whenever it's his turn, and they call him, he'll suddenly get up and go to the bathroom. And then once that happens, he's the person that's now behind him will have to go. I didn't know why. Now, the Indian guy now called. Immediately that guy got up and went to the bathroom again. And it was now me that now called after that. Because I guess since that guy was rejecting people, everybody was trying to avoid him. But I went to the guy. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated because...
You went to the guy everybody was avoiding.
Yeah, I went to the guy everybody was avoiding. My interview should have been at 7:30. They had to push me to like the 9:31 and something. I mean, it was just like so much. At this point, I'm just like, please, give it to me if you want to give it to me. If I don't give it to you, don't give it to me. Let me go and sleep first and then we'll figure this out tomorrow. So I got there and the guy asked me just 2 questions. Yeah, so where are you doing your PhD? How's your program going? Okay, well, you can go pick up your visa at...
Wow.
So, and I was looking through it. And then, of course, those are the 2 main questions they asked me, but we're having a random conversation on the side. So how do you really like the US? Now, I was listening in on the conversation on either side of me, and the people there, one of them was being asked the question like, so how many people live in the city where your school is located? I'm thinking to myself, Lord Jesus.
How is he going to know that?
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm wondering about that because you haven't even gone there. I'm thinking, okay, I live and I'm trying to even guess how many people are there. I can't even make a good guess. I mean, all I'll just say is that, well, I know that when it's summer, the population in the entire area drops down because most of the population are students because it's a college town. I can make a guess. I don't even know the exact number of students in my school. So I'm now wondering, wow, look at what you're asking this kind of boy. But then again,
kind of like a stupid question in a way, or they are just trying to find an excuse to
but I think they're also trying to trip him and get him flustered because the guy asked a question. He said, oh, so what do you want to go do? What do you want to go study in the US? The guy said he wants to go study business administration. Okay, why? The guy said, oh, because when I finish, I want to be able to come back and manage my mother's shop. In fact, the moment he made that statement, that was when the interviewer just changed gears, and that's when the questions that were coming out were just like impossible to answer. Because he first started by saying that, wait a minute, do you know that it costs on average about $80,000 to get a 4-year degree from the US? You want to spend $80,000 on a degree in the US to come back to Nigeria to manage your mother's shop. Does that make sense in terms of
how much is your mother's shop worth?
I mean, that's the exact question. At that point, the boy started stumbling and stuttering and everything. That's when the questions started coming. How many people are in that school? How many something? Because there were even other people there. One of them was a lady who does the exact same thing as those people interviewing people at the US Embassy, but she does it at the UK Embassy or the UK High Commission. Yeah. She was now trying to argue that, wait a minute, me and you, that is talking to the interviewer, me and you will do the exact same thing just for different countries. I want to know the reason why my something is being rejected. Go call your supervisor.
Okay, the lady was trying to go to the US.
Yeah, she was trying to go to the US, but she thought
Is she Nigerian?
She's a Nigerian, but she thought that, you people, me and you will do the same thing now. I know how the system works, kind of something. And you think that, and maybe people would have been thinking that, she has connections. I mean, she does it she interviews people at the UK Embassy. This will not be a very difficult thing.
Yeah, she's probably Brit, a Nigerian Brit.
Yeah, but they rejected her application. And I had people there that they rejected the application, and then they came back again with the exact same application, filled out the exact same way. And the interviewer would just say, Mr. So-and-so, I said that you were here last month. Okay, what has changed between last month and this month? Nothing. Okay, then sorry. The reason why we denied it last time, we're going to deny it again. Boom.
Wow. And there goes your non-refundable application.
I mean, everything is all gone down the drain. Wow. But Nigerians will now come back and say, no, I tried it this way, I tried it that way. Let me do it again.
And this was back when people can change the passports, if you remember.
So I mean, like a lot of things were just going on, and I was just seeing the kind of way people are being rejected. Unfortunately, I've never had to experience that at any point in time. But once more, that's because you need to be sure that God is leading you there. And trust me, you will not be having so much stress trying to get here. And when is the right time? There are people that have come here for their undergraduate, people that came here for their master's, for their PhD. I had a friend that came here he was a medical doctor back in Nigeria, did his MBBS, came here to the US, tried to do his master's in public health. The school was so expensive, and he thought that if I come here, they said that when I come here, I'll find scholarship. And I warned him before he came. I said, this scholarship is not just lying around for you to just pick up. If it was that easy, everybody would be getting scholarship. Don't put your hope on that. But see, try this. It didn't really listen so much to me. Guy came, it was a lot of struggle. I mean, went through so much. Those first few years were a huge struggle. But today, I mean, they just bought like a very, very expensive house in a nice part of town. He and his wife, they're not citizens, but their companies are also trying to apply for a green card for them. They have kids that are here in the US, American citizen. I mean, they've pretty much now just assimilated into the system. They're doing pretty well right now. I mean, both of them are making like 6 figures right now, he and his wife.
Yeah, but your story is that for your experience, it was very easy. You didn't have to, even though people were getting rejected left and right, because basically your faith and your trust, kind of helped you.
Yeah, and here I am. I'm not being rejected by the American people, but Jam is just jamming me and sending me away. Jam chased me from Nigeria. Or maybe that was also God's plan to get me moving. So, and just because you fail something doesn't mean that you don't keep working at it. I tell this to all my students because I also teach physics today. Like I said, I failed physics throughout my secondary school days up till SS3. Every single semester I failed it until that last term, and suddenly I started getting A's in it. So, and now I teach it. So
that's the irony of life and how things could turn. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you for all the tips and advice. Again, really, really pleasure reconnecting with you. Just one comment I wanted to make was that you and we have a mutual friend who I think he went to Georgia Tech, and he was working on his graduate program, went back to Nigeria, again got stuck and was not able to come back. I don't know if you remember that experience. I'm not going to mention names here, obviously.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, sometimes, even I'm just trying to say that the fact that you were here, some people will be like, well, he was here already. That's what was so easy for him. And I'm like, no. Sometimes you've been here a long time. There's another friend of mine that I remember now that was out in Idaho. He went to school, was here, and then went back home. And then he's stuck now. He can't come back. So it's not just easy to say, oh, wow, I'll just go back and come back and they gave it to you because you've always been here. No. It has to be almost something that, it's your calling or divinely ordained for things to work out that easy. If it's meant for you or if it's meant to be, like some people say, it will definitely be.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yep. Any final thoughts or last thing as we kind of get out of here?
Never burn any bridge you have. Even if things don't work out, find a way to at least leave a little opening. Yeah.
Cool. No, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for spending some time with us. Really appreciate it. Please go ahead and leave a comment, like, review, subscribe, and follow us on all the social media platforms. Until next time, and we'll catch you again. Thanks and bye now.
Bye.